Namato Ratanatayasa. May I pay homage to Triple Zim, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. My respect goes to my parents and my teachers. Hello, good evening, everyone. So today is Friday, the 9th of October 2020. And this is Ajahn Sujan from Varapunya Meditation Center, Aberdeen, Scotland. As usual, I'm here with you tonight on this Facebook Dhamma Talk. Hi everyone. Hi Sarala. Hi Anish from Thailand. Margaret. Simone from Italy. Gautam from India. And Margaret from Aberdeen. Sarala from London, and everyone. So thank you everyone for joining with us to this ongoing Dhamma talk, which I have started from the beginning of April until now. So continuously giving the talks and guided meditation. Hello Emma, hello Manish. Particularly from the Vassa, the Range Retreat, 3 months, I've been focusing on a particular sutta, or the discourse, the discourse on the Buddha, the Buddha's first discourse on the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. And I have been talking almost every night on that, picking up each and every main theme of the sutta and explaining how those doctrines are in the sutta, in the Buddhism, and how can we apply it to our day-to-day life. Hello Kalpana, hello Manish. So, in this series, initially I was thinking that I would be able to complete by the 3 months of a Rains retreat this Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the discourse on the first discourse of the Buddha, but unable to complete and continued until now. So today again, in connection with the from the first discourse of the Buddha, and then I've been talking on the last factors of Eightfold Noble Path. And we all know that this sutta begins with explaining that there are 2 types of extremes that people normally follow to get basically happiness. Some would follow very strict, and others would be very lax and lazy, lying and laying down, causing with a different excuses not to do something. And that's how they find happiness. Others, they will go on extreme ways and extreme habits to get the happiness. But at the end of the day, these will not lead to the liberation. And that's why Buddha didn't reject those 2 extremes. Buddha simply said that they are hina, the lesser happiness, or it's not a person who is seeking for the liberation should be following that path, those paths. But one should follow the middle path. It's known as Arya Attangika Magga, or the Eightfold Noble Path. On this base, the whole teachings of the Buddha elaborated. And in here, again, comes the Four Noble Truths. And I've been talking on this topic and all the Eightfold Noble Path, from the Sammadhi. I have explained each factors, and now we are on the last factor, the sammasamadhi. And I've explained this 2 days already, that sammasamadhi, and how the sammasamadhi works, and what form of a what form of a translation are there, and some would translate it as a right meditation. Others would translate it as a right concentration, and like that. The famous one is a right concentration. And in this right concentration, again, I have been giving the background of it, that how this is important. And today I want to elaborate a little bit further, saying that the samma samadhi, or the right concentration, or basically the concept of the concentration, was not invented by the Buddha. It was before the Buddha become the enlightened one. That's called the jhanas, practice of a jhanas, or attainment of the jhanas. Even when we look at the life of the Buddha, after when he was 29, and he realized that there are people who are suffering from sickness, old age, and death. And with that, he wanted to know that, is there any way that we can overcome these diseases, so-called, getting old, getting sick, and one must die, and which is a very bitter truth that we cannot deny, whether we like it or not. So Buddha simply, at that time he was a prince, and he wanted to find out the solution for these three diseases that we cannot escape. And he gave up his palace life at the age of 29, and he became Prince Ascetic. Okay? And before he became the enlightened one, he was even known as the ascetic Gautama. Ascetic Gautama. Gautama was his surname. Ascetic Gautama, and sometimes he also was known as Prince Ascetic. So during this time, when he left at the age of 29, in search for the truth, or in search for the solution of these sickness, old age sickness and death, during that time, in the culture, it was already famously known, these jhanas, or these concentration meditations. And again, I think I have mentioned on two nights ago that the concentration meditation is not solely to the Buddhist, or belong to the Buddhism. And every faith and every beliefs, they have some form of a meditation, or some form of a concentration meditation to connect with the external divine or powers. So that was at that time of the Buddha too. And the people, or the ascetics, were practicing to gain those higher state of the samadhis, higher state of the concentration. With that, they were able to subdue, or even eradicating all the hindrances that normally hinder their practices, such as sensual pleasure, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and doubt. So they were able to overcome or subdue or suppressing for during the time of their practice of a meditation. And with that, they were able to attain the higher stages of the jhanas, or concentration. And at that time, people were thinking, or they had a thought, or understanding, not just all the asceticism that time, were having this concept that, or having this understanding that attainment of the jhanas are the highest they could attain. Nevertheless, they do know, they do have concept of beyond that, and that is the Buddhahood, and that is the attainment of the Buddha. They do know at that time, and from the scripture what we can find, that during that time people were giving up the family life and become an ascetic, and practicing this asceticism, mystics, and concentration, meditation, and so, simply to attain the Buddhahood. But they were unable to find the ways to attain that, the Buddhahood, or the so-called Nibbana, like that. But at that time, the practice were so widely known and practiced was the jhanic or concentration meditation and attaining the higher stages of the jhanas. So when the prince Siddhartha, he left the palace at the age of 29, actually he did have some lessons on those as a theoretical studies when he was a prince at the his palace, but never experienced it. So after he left the palace, he went on studying with different institutions. Particular two institutions were very famous at that time, and people would go and learn this concentration and jhanic experiences. And one was the Alaradharamaputta, and the second was Uddakadaramaputta. And these two were the famous and very highly respected masters, those who have accomplished the jhanic experiences, or basically attained the higher stages of the concentration. And even they were believed that sort of in line to the liberation. And when the Buddha went in there, and then he practiced these practiced meditation and concentration meditation with these two, and he also attained up to so-called the sammasamadhi jhana, the 8 jhanas. And yet he found that this is not the end. There are more than that. So that's why what I'm saying here, I just wanted to give you an overview of concentration, that it is not belong solely to the Buddhism. It was existed before him, and it was practiced before him. And during his time, these practices were there, and even now until our age, after over 2,500 years, we got this too. We are still practicing some form of samadhi or the concentration too. But Buddha said that this is not the end of the practice. There are more than that what we should be developing. Okay? And that's how it is a little bit later on known as the second form of a meditation is called Vipassana meditation. And yesterday I mentioned that Vipassana meditation itself is not the practice. It is a result of the practice. And that's knowing or seeing distinctively, seeing things clearly as they are in terms of the 3 characteristics. So that is the Vipassana. So that's why the practice of a Vipassana is, again, then this is solely belong to the Buddha's teachings, which we cannot find any other faiths, whether it's in Hinduism, forget about this Brahmanical, Christianity and Islam, Jewish or Western religion, and forget about that. So that's why it's solely belong to the Buddha's teachings in terms of understanding the 3 characteristics, that everything is impermanent. And anything that is impermanent, we cannot claim that is entity as the permanent. So this is the very philosophical concept that was a revolution and revolutionized during the time of the Buddha, and is continued until now. So here what we can see here, that's why the sammasamadhi, or the right concentration, although it's a part of the practice here, it is basically to control our minds and attain the jhanas. And basically there are four form jhanas. And then there are another four called formless jhanas. And in this form jhanas, the first jhana that one could attain after, I will read it down for you. So when we read the sutta, it says, then what is the right concentration? What is the right concentration? And this is from the Buddha's on his own words. It says, secluded from sensual pleasure, secluded from unwholesome states. Now these two are very, very important to understand. Seclusion from sensual pleasure, and seclusion from unwholesome state of the mind. Now seclusion from sensual pleasure here basically saying that we are overcoming from the 5 hindrances and our mind are on the wholesome state. If that's an unwholesome state, then that would not call as a sammasamadhi. That would be miccha-samadhi. Sammasamadhi is a right, correct, and in accordance with the teachings. But whereas the miccha-samadhi is not according to that brings the happiness. So that's why two things are important before attaining the first, the jhana. And further he says that one enters upon and abide in the first jhana, which is accompanied by initial thought and sustained attention. And that's normally known as vitakka and vichara. So this is accompanied by vitakka and vichara, initial stage of initial thought and a sustained attention. And here sometimes, this vitakka and vichara is translated into like a thought or an examination. Okay, and with rapture, a piti, and a pleasure born of seclusion. So here, born of seclusion. So first jhana, the state of the calmness that one can get. At that time, our mind is fully disconnected from the worldly affairs. Fully disconnected. No distractions at all. There is no distractions at all. And the mind is so steadfastness there that ability to be with the object that you have chosen. And there is a purity. There is a brightness, there is clarity, and the freedom from all the defilements. And then and a malleability and a freedom from all the distractions. So that's the seclusion. And here again, seclusion, there are 3 types of a seclusion. One seclusion is called kaya viveka, a bodily seclusion. And the second is called the mental seclusion, mano, chitta viveka. And the third is what is in a Pali? Now it will come later. Okay, the first one is bodily seclusion. Is basically going. There is no distractions at all. Or you go, and again sometimes people may be living in empty huts or living in a forest for meditation. Their mind may not be in that calmness, in that silence. And this particularly we can reflect during this pandemic, that we are not allowed to go out and associate or socialize with other people. And then you are requested to stay in your own place. And basically this is supposed to be a kaya viveka, a seclusion or physical seclusion. And yet you can check yourself that how much your mind is looking forward to going out, how much your mind is looking forward to do something, missing talking to your friends, missing talking to your grandsons, families and friends. And that is not chitta viveka. So you're mentally not secluded yet. Okay? So in order to have a proper seclusion, you see how difficult it is. Okay? The second, although you're living socially distanced from other people, mentally you are not yet. And as a result, mentally we are disturbed. And we go on with talking and thinking and exaggerating. And when I will get this time to go and see them, and when I will be getting. And that brought a lot of frustrations. And with that frustration again, brought so many other domestic and then again neighborhood troubles that we can hear in the news. And the third one is upadhi. Yeah, now I got it. Upadhi viveka, and that is basically means subconsciously saved all the unwholesome state of the mind, or the so-called asavas, the taints. Free from that is the seclusion. So there are 3 stages of a seclusion. Some people may be giving up a family life and living in the temple or going into the monastery or going into the forests. But if their mind is still longing, if their mind is still engaging with the worldly affairs, then he would not be able to attain this concentration, this jhanas. Furthermore, he also has to suppress, at least suppression or subdue all the 5 hindrances. Unless you have suppressed all those 5 hindrances, the nivaranas, only then you will be able to attain the first jhana. Otherwise, we will not be able to attain. Sometimes I have seen so many examples. People, would like to come for meditation and living in a temple for some days. But they cannot leave their home or their family life behind. They're constantly thinking of their homes, their families, and not able to meditate, not able to learn, not able to concentrate. And sometimes when I ask them to leave their mobiles behind, they cannot. Because normally the answer would be, I need to contact with my sister, I need to contact with my children, a husband or wife, like that. Then how could you get the progress in the meditation if you cannot leave all behind, all the distractions? So that's why these 3 seclusions are very, very important to, at least some degree, we have to leave aside, let go of that while we are meditating or while we are on the retreat. And only then we will be able to attain the jhanas. And in that jhanas, what happens is our mind is fully engaged with the object. An ability to examine the entire object that we are concentrating on. And with this examination, what happens is it brings the joy. It brings the joy and happiness. That's why it says the rapture arises. A rapture, and then a pleasure brings. And with that pleasure, what happens is that we see the benefit of the meditation. And that's simply born because of the seclusion. That's why it's called born out of seclusion, viveka. And now if you are looking for any progress in the meditation, make sure, doesn't matter you are at home or you are on the retreat in any monasteries. During that time, you have to make a resolution. Motivate yourself that during this half an hour time, or during this retreat time, or day retreat, or the weekend retreat, or a 1 week retreat, or the 10 days retreat, during these times, you have to make a strong resolution that I am going to attain this seclusion, bodily seclusion, mentally seclusion, and if possible, minimizing, and if possible, eliminating or suppressing all those 5 hindrances. And only then we will be able to develop our meditation. Otherwise, we will not be able to continue even for 15 minutes. Now, I have been guiding every night from April till now, and after this talk and after we have a chanting, guiding meditation for half an hour. My question is, how many of you can continue for this half an hour? Whether you can maintain this seclusion, a physical seclusion, basically you're in a free from any other activities and living at the same place and listening and practicing. And a second, whether you can mentally be free yourself while you're practicing for half an hour. And if you can do so, gradually you will be able to subdue or suppress all those hindrances. And with that, gradually you become familiar with your primary object of a concentration. You will be able to comprehend the object that you are paying attention to, examining that. You will be able to put the attention sustained in that object. And the beauty comes after that. And you will be able to experience such a joy and a rapture and the happiness of being able to watch. It's like someone who is blind for so many years and suddenly, or colorblind, which I have seen on the Facebook page some times ago, that there was a man who was colorblind for since he was born. And somehow, because of the technology advancement, he got this glass. And as soon as he put that glass on, he was able to see the different colors. And then teardrops. And that sort of experience you will get. And if you are able to meditate and work with the primary object, and if you can remain with the object and ability to sustain your mind with that object, and during this time your mind and a body is secluded, mind and the kilesas or the defilements are also subdued, then the rapture and the happiness that you experience is so good. Yeah, so good. So that's why it's up to our dedication, our effort, and the resolution that you make. With that, little by little, you will get the result of it, and you will see how beneficial it is. And with that, the first jhanas you will be able to experience. And then you will be able to know that what a beautiful experience is, what a wonderful meditation it is. But end of the day, I have to remind you, this is not the end. It is just the start towards the liberation. So, thank you everyone for listening. Yes, Emma, it takes a lot of practice, but doesn't mean that you cannot. Yeah, little by little, each drop of water, if you continue, keep it dropping, the whole jar will full. Same like that. Okay, so thank you everyone, and thank you very much for your comments, and I would love to hear all the comments or any feedbacks, so I can extend, and with this, as you've been listening and practicing with this, may you all be happy, safe, and get well if you're not well, and then progress in the practice. And end of the day, may you be free from all the defilements and attain the supreme happiness of Nibbana. With this, thank you, and in a few moments' time, we're going to have an evening chanting, and later, half an hour later, we're going to have a guided meditation. Hope to see you, and if not, then see you tomorrow. So, thank you. May the Buddha Dhamma Sangha bless you. Sadhu.